The Runaway Robot by Lester Del Rey. Chapter 3. Farmhand. There were things I didn't like about my new life. I had no one to talk to. I was not allowed to read. I was turned off after each working shift, and my consciousness was not returned until it was time to go to work again. But that didn't mean I was treated badly by Mr. Hennings. Being kind to a robot is not the same process as being kind to a human being. Overworking a robot, for instance, is impossible as long as enough repair time is allocated, another big word Paul taught me, but a robot experiences sensations akin to human misery if he is made to work without proper repairs or to drag along on weak batteries. Mr. Hennings insisted upon good care for his robots. His overseer, Mr. Bellows, was a grim, silent man who did practically no talking, but he was efficient and kept the robots in perfect shape, bringing them to full battery charge at the end of every third work period. The work periods were geared to human capacity rather than that of robots, because Mr. Hennings did not allow his mechanical units to function unattended. This may have been for reasons of greater production efficiency, but still it was humane. An unattended robot can damage one of its parts and have to stand motionless with the injury until help comes. It experiences a form of suffering because a robot has a sense of self-preservation built into it, and with some badly injured units, an injury to a part brings a kind of terror. Mr. Henning's 6 robots led what had to be called happy lives. Their construction is different from mine. Each of them consists of a single big rectangular box with 2 arms. These torso boxes are moved along on a broad, flat conveyor tread, revolving beneath them on an endless chain. This enables them to move efficiently between the rows of growing herbs and go backward or forward as their guide mechanisms direct. They have long, tubular arms with sensitive steel-fingered hands, and when they gather herbs, they store and carry them in their torso boxes. I am different. Built to work around humans and respond to more specialized orders, I have tubular legs and more flexible tubular arms. I also have a more specialized control box up above. There is a grill on either side of this box. These grills cover the diaphragms that serve as both speakers and receivers, with short antennae above them to send or receive radio signals. I have no nose or mouth and only one eye, you might say, the refractor bulb in the middle of my control box. The Overseer's 2 helpers were even more grimly silent than he was. They were native Martians and had the green, shell-like bodies that only Martians have. I wouldn't have enjoyed talking to the Martians, but I thought Mr. Bellows might like a little conversation when he wasn't working. I was disappointed. He preferred to sit by himself and read the newspaper and magazines that were taken on microwaves at Ganopolis, Ganymede's only city of any size, and distributed to the colonies all over the satellite. After work the second day, I went to where he had his quarters, in a surface shed under the dome that covered the repair shops, and asked him if there was anything I could do for him. He was a squat little earthling with a deeply lined face and sharp bright eyes. He looked at me blankly and said, "What's that?" I asked if there was anything I could do for you. "You did your work assignment." "Yes, but I thought there might be something else. I can clean up your quarters." He glanced suspiciously around. "They aren't dirty." "I just thought I might help." You could see Mr. Bellows wasn't used to having things done for him. He said, "You were a houseboy over at the governor's, weren't you?" "I was a companion for Paul, the governor's son." "Well, I'm not a governor's son, and I don't need a companion." "We could talk after you get through reading. I'm able to converse on many subjects." "I don't want to talk, especially not to a robot. It takes battery current, and that costs money. Have you been checked out?" "No, but I came straight to your apartment from the herb field." "All right, get out there in the shed and get in line for your checkover. The boys don't want to wait all night." "Yes, sir," I said as I turned to leave. I pointed to his table. "May I take one of those magazines to read tonight?" He stared at me in poppy-eyed amazement. "What in the galaxy is this? A robot asking for a magazine?" "You'd have thought I'd asked him for his head." "I'm sorry," I told him. "A magazine would help me pass the time pleasantly." "You'll pass it pleasantly," he yelled. "You'll be turned off with the rest of the robots. Who do you think you are, member of the Royal Martian family or something? Get out of here!" "Yes, sir," I said obediently and went out into the shed and lined up with the rest of the robots. I felt naked standing there as the 2 overseers checked the other robots over. Naked because they had taken my pants away from me. It probably sounds silly to you, a robot embarrassed without his pants, but domestic robots are given pants and aprons so that they can have pockets to carry small objects, and the first thing Mr. Hennings had said was that a farm robot wearing pants was ridiculous, and he made me take mine off. Everything considered, I wasn't very happy at Mr. Hennings' farm. I wasn't very happy standing there waiting to be checked out. They had taken my pants away, they wouldn't give me a magazine to read, and there was no one to talk to. I was lonesome, that was the plain truth of it. I was lonesome for Paul. He had deserted me. When that thought came, I took hold of myself quickly. It was no way to think. He hadn't deserted me at all. It was perfectly logical that I wouldn't be taken back to Earth by the Simpson family. After all, I was only a robot. I wasn't a human, even if I did feel like one sometimes. At least, I thought that's what I felt must have been somewhat the same as human emotions. But that couldn't have been true. I had been built by men to serve men, and I could be destroyed by men. I had none of the inalienable rights of human beings. But I could miss Paul, and I did miss him. Right up to the second that one of the Martians checked me out and then reached into my torso box and snapped me off for the night. I kept right on missing Paul the next day, and the next, and the next. My work was mechanical and didn't take any concentration. All I had to think about were the things Paul and I used to do together. Going to one of our caves to spend a lazy day talking about everything in the universe, riding across the country in Paul's skimmer, with Paul hanging on and Jane screaming with delight while I held her to keep her from falling off. Spending the hours and the days and the years with Paul, watching him grow up, learning his moods, when he wanted to talk and when he wanted to be silent. Missing Paul. My torso wasn't big enough to carry herbs as an efficient operation, and I was assigned to a specialized job. I was briefed on herb growth, and because the yields always ripened unevenly, I went around the farm and reported back on conditions in various areas, so Mr. Bellows knew where to send his 6 harvesting robots at just the right times. This was important because if the herbs got overripe, their values went down sharply at the processing plant. This gave me quite a little freedom, and that was good. But then again, maybe it was bad because I was alone a lot, out by myself, and I thought more about Paul. I had been on Mr. Henning's farm about a week, and I wasn't rebellious. I was adjusted to my new service, and I had no idea whatever of running away or anything like that. But one afternoon I came in to report. Mr. Bellows had his radio going, and I heard the announcer say, "It's a beautiful sight indeed, the Star Queen coming down out of the sky into our spaceport. And a memorable occasion, too, because this is the first time one of these proud ships of the inner planets has ever come to Jupiter. Her red and silver hull no doubt makes many of us here on Ganymede dream of home, and long for the day when we too will return to Earth. We envy those who are going, but we are also happy for them. The ones who, 2 days hence, will board the mighty Star Queen and rocket down the spaceways toward the green hills of Earth." "What are you doing?" "I've come to report." It was Mr. Bellows scowling up at me from his planning board. "All right, don't stand there. Give me your report and get back to work." He snapped off the radio. "Old windbag," he growled. "You want to go back to Earth too, don't you?" He glared at me. "Will you quit wasting current on idle chatter? What are the conditions in the South Field?" "Not quite ready, but most of that area is coming fast. I'll look again tomorrow. There are 4 patches in the Southwest Field that will be ready at noon tomorrow." "How many robots?" 3. "That's too many." "Any less won't get the herbs picked in time." "All right," he grumbled. "I'm going to Eastfields now." "Well, get going. Stop wasting time." I left the shed and trotted east, and I was thinking of what the announcer had said. 2 days hence, the ones who will board the mighty Star Queen. That meant the Simpsons family. It meant Paul. And I knew I had to see him once more before he left. It was a strange thought, and I suppose it scared me. A thought that involved disobedience. One that my discipline reactor should have destroyed instantly. It tried. I was conscious of the struggle in my control box, but the thought remained whole. It was not destroyed. I had to see Paul once more before he left for Earth, and there was only one way to do it. I was going to run away.